present our Chamorro playlist here. Good morning on you guys. 7:03 Friday. Woohoo! Last show ever of The Link. My last broadcast. Thank you guys. We'll get to our Facebook Live comments. I see them. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I go through all the comments after the show. Really just overwhelmed by your show of support here. And good morning on you guys. Cabo Enterprises, ITD, and Jack in the Box, Mount Carmel School, proud to present today's episode of The Link. And also Tropical Ice, the purest, cleanest ice in Guam. Yes, get 2 bags for $3 at your favorite store. Landon Aydlett of the National Weather Service joins us. Landon, good morning, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, and it's my honor and pleasure to be here in the studio with you for the first time in nearly 2 years.
I know, it's been crazy. We've been getting really used to the Zoom. I want to thank you, man, because we reached out to you, and again, like I said when we earlier, we didn't know how long this show was going to last, but your commitment has never wavered, and I don't know how many Mondays we've shared here. You make the Mondays a little bit better. Usually Monday hits different, but it's always good to get you on and really get the people the information they need to know about the weather, which is why we brought you on today. I know you came on this Monday, and you talked about there's a big presentation about the forecast for the typhoon season, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And so that was yesterday. That was our second WFO Guam Regional Climate Conference.
WFO, of course. What is the WFO?
That's the Weather Forecast Office. That's our National Weather Service field office here on Guam. And it's something that I developed last year. One of our forecasters mentioned we need to have something of the sort that was similar to what they do in the South Pacific with all the Pacific Island nations.
Right.
And I said, that's a great idea. Let's make it happen.
It is. And man, Landon, before we get into it, because I'm going to throw it over to Landon, and he's got a whole bunch of slides for you guys. And this is a big deal. It's where the National Weather Service lays out their prediction for the typhoon season, also known as the tropical cyclone outlook. But Landon and I, we were talking before we went on, and I just also wanted to commend you because I remember when Chip Gard left, and everybody remembers Chip. I mean, it was kind of, before Barbara White, he was just or after Barbara White, he was the face of Guam weather. And I know that people were wondering how it would be when he left because, we've gotten so used to him being the go-to guy for the weather. And I got to say, man, you haven't missed a beat, and you've also flipped the script and brought a lot of technology. Like, I can't imagine Chip Gard trying to figure out the slides and the tab. I could see him getting mad and throwing the tab on the ground. But you've really turned the corner, man, and made the weather. I mean, it's fun to watch, dude, and engaging. And I think at the end of the day, getting the message out in the way that's accessible to the most people is always a great thing. So, congrats, man.
Thank you very much. And I bottle up papers from time to time and throw stuff on the ground, but I do it in private.
Right.
And I let my brother know about it. He's always the one I blast when I'm irritated about something not working, which is often. But yeah, this is a tremendous challenge, this job as a warning coordination meteorologist. And it's something that Chip, as a collaborator of mine, a coworker, a colleague of mine for 12 years, I really admired the work that he did for many years, 10 years that I worked with him. And for me, having his job was the dream job of working with the people, not just sitting behind a computer at a workstation on shift work, but actually working with people in the community, working on awareness, outreach, and education. And so when the Weather Service really started diving into the aspect of social science and decision support services, that's where I found my niche. And that was around 2017, 2018, when I started doing my social science research here on the island about weather communications and how we can improve that communications process. And so at that point, I was waiting for Chip to retire, and he did. But now I was like, why did you retire? It's so much work. My days usually start at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they go onward till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. It's a lot.
But you love what you do.
I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. And there's been some tough moments in the last 2.5, 3 years that I've been doing this job since Chip's retirement. But it's the passion for the people on Guam and the passion for the people in the region that keeps me here and fuels my efforts to keep doing what we do here at the Weather Service. And that's to protect life and property.
Right. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line, right? So what are we looking at for typhoon season, Landon?
Well, definitely, we're not looking at a bad outlook, or we're definitely not looking at a 2015 year. That was a strong El Nino year. And if you want to go ahead and pull up the slides, and we'll get to some of the background. We'll start with the first slide. This is just our typical weather outlook to start off the week. And, of course, there's nothing much in the headlines moving forward, just a showery start to the day this morning. We did have a urban and small stream flood advisory this morning to get us started. That was in response to some heavy showers moving across south and central Guam, and other parts got brief heavy rainfall, but not quite to the duration of what southern Guam received. I've not had any reports, but we were estimating about 1 to 2 inches of rainfall in a very short period of time this morning. So that probably woke up and startled some people, but otherwise it was much needed rainfall for the island because we have ongoing dry conditions. So again, not everybody saw the rain, but some areas did get a good amount of rainfall. So those scattered showers will persist through the morning, and we could see another wave of activity this afternoon. If the winds don't increase to the afternoon, we could see a little bit of an island effect convection situation develop. But if the winds are just enough, whatever convection does evolve over the island will be pushed off to the west. So we'll be watching that closely, but stay tuned to all weather forecasting conditions. Risk of rip currents is moderate, and the drought condition is starting to creep in across the Mariana Islands with the ongoing dry conditions, and the Guam fire danger remains high to very high. So go ahead into the next slide, and we'll flip right on through. And that's the drought picture across the region. So we're watching developing drought in the northern Marshall Islands, which is persisting there across Woche and the northern islands, but also Kapinga Maringi. That's going to be the hotspot for dry conditions over the next several months with the current climate pattern with La Nina, but then also the Mariana Islands. And eventually we're going to start seeing those rain chances increase across the Mariana Islands, just typical with our seasonal transition to the wet season, and then we'll go right on from there. The next slide, this is just one that we've had on our Facebook page since May 15th, 16th, showing those colder than normal temperatures over the Pacific waters, and that's indicative of the ongoing La Nina that's fighting for survival as we move into the coming months. And so that has a lot of effects onto what we're expecting for the tropical weather outlook. And so we look at the state of the climate, whether we're in a La Nina pattern or an El Nino pattern, because the numbers that we expect across the region are closely hinged to where these storms develop. And Dr. Mark Landon from University of Guam, he frequently states that year to year, the numbers don't change that much between seasons, but it's the location of where these storms track. And so if we're in a La Nina pattern, these tropical cyclones typically develop in the Western Micronesia, Chuuk, near Guam, and then move on out to the Philippine Sea. And that's where we were in 2020, 2021. So we had a lot of action in the Philippine Sea developing near Guam, and then it just moved on off.
Right, nothing ever happened here.
Nothing ever happened here. We did go into watches and warnings periodically for these, what we call piece of junk. It's a developing disturbance that may or may not become a depression right on our doorstep. And so the hardest part with those situations, and meteorologically speaking from a forecaster standpoint, is how do you communicate that? Because there's a lot of motions that go into play, whether you're in a watch or warning, a condition of readiness 4, 3, 2, or 1 with the governor's office and Homeland Security.
Right.
So we have to closely coordinate and plan for all the contingencies. Is it going to develop? Is it going to hold off until it passes? So we look at all those factors. In an El Nino year, all that activity shifts farther to the east. So I'm showing the picture from 2020. That was a moderate to strong La Nina pattern that year. We only had one tropical system move through the Mariana Islands. That was Tropical Storm Atsani right around October 30th. That was the only threat we had to any of the islands in the western North Pacific. But the next slide showing the 2015 year, which is a strong El Nino, a whole lot more activity.
Right.
And so we were busy with tropical weather all the way from the start of the year. We had Tropical Storm Bavi in March of 2015, Typhoon Dolphin, May of 2015. Then we had several more. Dolphin was the 7th tropical cyclone in May of that year. So much busier year.
Landon, let me ask you, man, when you talk about these storms that form in the La Nina and then they end up going out to the Philippines, nothing happening here, how do you handle people who maybe wonder, oh, we got all prepared and it turned out to be nothing, and then the credibility, right? And what do we believe next time the Weather Service says something?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, and I like to tell people don't judge every storm based off of previous storms, because every situation is different. Case in point, this closest point of approach, everybody looks at that CPA,
right,
thinking that once you've reached CPA, things will rapidly improve. That's not always the case. Sometimes the worst conditions are before CPA or after, and that was the situation with Typhoon Malakas in Yap. Their worst conditions were after CPA for half a day or so. Half a day, Chris. But we look at every storm individually based on its symmetry, its motion, its forecast, its outlook. Is it intensifying, weakening? And we always like to analyze everything constantly. When we're dealing with the tropical cyclone threats to any of our islands, We are all hands on deck in the weather service, and it's a buzz in there. And we hope to have KUAM in there live again during the next tropical cyclone event, because we're opening up now finally.
I'm pretty sure we'll be there.
But always be prepared. Always watch. We try to explain the probabilities of things happening, the uncertainties, and that's the key. How do you say you don't know what's going to happen?
Right.
In a way that people understand that.
Right.
And so that's the magic in communicating anything weather forecasts.
Let me ask you also, man, because it's almost been a generation since we've been through a major, major weather event. For those of you guys who have been through a major one, I mean, Dolphin was pretty bad. But do you ever worry, Landon, that our people wouldn't be ready, or that, you know, this generation that's never been through a storm wouldn't know what to do if one came?
That's partial, yes. I'm not so much worried that people don't know what to do, because we will be screaming and putting out as much information as possible. Right. Jenna, the public affairs at Homeland Security, and all of the staff at Homeland Security office, they do phenomenal work, and we work very closely together in all things preparedness and response. My biggest fear is saying something wrong. That's what keeps me up at night, and that's why in a tropical situation, I will be working 18 to 20 hours a day, sleeping for a couple hours on my couch in the office or on the floor. But as long as there's a threat to the island, I will be communicating every way possible as I can, and making sure we're putting out the best information in every way possible. Facebook, Twitter, Facebook live broadcast. That's been such a huge success for our office communication since 2019. And so if there's a threat and people are in danger, I want to make sure everybody's getting that information, no matter how far they are away from us, how far they are from communications, however we have to communicate, because we want to make sure everybody to the last mile gets that information.
Yeah, I mean, I got 3 young kids, and they haven't been through a major storm, right? And so when I try and explain to them, like, oh, the trees are, they can't, there's nothing to measure it against. So, but we did come out with a, guys, we had a great podcast from the files. Sorry, self-plug. Check Tomas Manglonia's episode on, I think it was Paka, Pongsonghua. So there, if you want to know what it's like to be to go through a major storm, check out From the Files on the KUAM Podcast Network. Go ahead, Landon, take it away.
Yeah, and if anybody's an expert on significant typhoons, that's the CNMI. My gosh, they have been barreled so many times. They've had Typhoon Sudalor in 2015. They had a Super Typhoon U2. Hagibis hit Anatahan, which is nobody up there, but significant major hits. We were grazed by Typhoon Mangkhut in September 2018, but Rhoda took a direct hit. So they are the experts to surviving nature's worst, and this is literally nature's worst. And so we might be looking at a below average year or below normal year this year again for our 3rd year, but we'll probably see a little bit more activity than what we saw the last 2 years. Those were bottom dwelling years for us climate wise across the region, but it only takes that one storm. Everything can come into alignment just right, and you get one storm and makes it a very rough year for somebody. Right on.
Landon, before we let you go, though, Memorial Day weekend weather?
Yeah, we're not looking bad this Memorial Day weekend. We could see some showers linger tomorrow, but otherwise it's going to be a status quo type of weekend.
You mean hot? It's been hot.
It'll be hot. Yeah, so watch out for these heat indexes. Drink a lot of water. I'll probably be at the beach somewhere tomorrow.
Stay hydrated.
For a break. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Stay hydrated. Wear the sunscreen, but beautiful weekend ahead.
Thank you, Landon.
Absolutely.
Hey, it's not goodbye. I know we'll probably see you in the hotspot or all around, and keep working hard, keep doing good work, and you are appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris.
Got it. Thank you. There you go, Landon Aydlett of the National Weather Service. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and come back with more of the last broadcast ever of The Link, which is brought to you by Mount Carmel School in Hoggett. Yes, 671-565-5128 for more info on how to enroll for the upcoming school year. Also brought to you in part by Tropicool. Yes, Guam's cleanest ice. You can, it's pure too. In Guam, you can get 2 bags for $3 at your favorite mom and pop store. The Link, the last link ever, continues next. Good morning.